We're back with our duel in the magic school, and I'm already running out of things to say about this chapter. Yeah, it's pretty easy for the most part. You don't need to worry about most of the stuff here. I don't know how to make it interesting, but, anyway, again, we're just luring these enemies one by one. Though, still gotta watch out for those killing edges. Not sure why mercenaries of all enemy types are here, but I don't know. Definitely had to put some physical uses into this chapter. I mean, it's actually kind of better than having to fight all mages, but still. Right, now, you might notice those two treasure chests above the throne, through some water. Alright, this is where I realised that Wendell would probably be better used over on the right-hand side, because they don't actually have a healer over there. So I had to get him to trek all the way around there. Fortunately, Fina helps that. Again, you don't want to kill the clerics. Yeah, you pretty much just want to keep him alive. So even if that guy did crit, he wouldn't have done much at all. And make sure to lure this guy first and not the sniper, because otherwise... Wow, Marth is very crit happy today. Yeah, see that sniper there? Yeah, he's probably the only thing on this map that's actually kind of a significant threat. So, you want to make sure that you lure him individually before you... And make sure your flyers don't go into his range early, because he'll just, you know, blast them to chunks, basically. Right, now, remember what I said before about Elrean pretty much just being content to sit on the throne until you get there? Yes, though you might want to be warned that once you do get to his range, Elrean will move. So, you want to watch out for that. Make sure you don't actually go into his range until you're ready. Oh, and, I don't know, as good a time as any to mention this, Elrean does, in fact, have Nappa syndrome. I found this out the hard way in my first playthrough. This was back in the Japanese version, but yeah. Essentially, yeah, I put Wendell in his range, and Elrean critted him with Thoron. Funnily enough, Elrean actually does have a special boss conversation with Wendell, actually. I actually forgot about this when I was... In fact, I forgot about this until literally that very second I was doing this commentary. So yeah, I don't know if I have I probably copied over my save state since then, so I can't go back and show it, which is annoying because I really want to show off all the special boss quotes in this game. Yeah, this game and Shadow Dragon have the annoying fact of, special boss dialogues don't actually show up in this game if you've already triggered the boss's normal dialogue. You can only have one dialogue with a boss per chapter, which, yeah, is annoying as it means that, yeah, you can't see any of the special dialogue plus the normal dialogue. With Katarina in the prologue, it was mostly fine, considering that her normal dialogue was just ellipses anyway, and whoa, that was unnecessary, but still cool. Right, now we've got a cleric blocking our path at this point. At this point, I was really freaking out, because if that cleric stayed there, I would have been screwed. Well, at least the left-hand team would have been screwed. They would have all been blocked off from getting to the throne. As it stands, though, you'll see the enemy phase. But, anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, special boss quotes. Yeah, Katarina was the first who had them, and I'm pretty sure... I don't know if there are any other bosses between now and then that had boss quotes. I certainly know a couple of bosses later on who have special quotes. Back in Shadow Dragon it was the same. You wouldn't trigger the boss's special conversations if you'd already triggered their normal ones. Which generally only mattered with Mishalis. He had an awful lot of special quotes, actually, but you could only see one per playthrough. To the best of my knowledge, he had special dialogue with the White Wings, Minerva, Maria, and Marth, plus his regular quote for anyone else. The only other boss for Shadow Dragon I remember having special dialogue was Medius, the final boss, actually. And even then, he only had special dialogue with Nagi. Right, now I'm going to use the Thief Staff on this chest, it looks pretty safe, and hey, we got a Silent Staff! Now, something you probably want to know. The Silent Staff works differently in this game compared to other games in the series. In this game, now if you read that it says, a special staff that seals all magic for a turn. Yes, instead of being cast on a specific enemy to silence them individually, the Silent Staff instead effectively acts like a Kishuna effect to the entire map at once. He was, well, if you haven't played Fire Emblem 7, you'll know him as the Magic Seal from that game. Essentially, he was this thing where the whole area around him, no one could use any magic within that area. Not you, not enemies. Yeah, the Silent Staff in this game works like that. You cast this staff, and for the whole turn, no one is using magic. No one on your side, no one on their side. It can be pretty useful sometimes, although admittedly it would have been really useful back in the last chapter. But I mean, yeah, it can be useful occasionally, but other than that, yeah, there are only certain specific situations where it's useful, but there is one coming up right in this chapter, so, yeah. Oh, bloody recover staves. Now, you might notice something here. Now, originally, I thought you either had to use the Thief Staff to get those chests behind the throne, or you had to use a pirate with a chest key. It turns out, though, Marth can actually cross water, and with his Fire Emblem allowing him to open chests, he can just, oh great, we've got a cleric blocking the way again. But as you've seen in one of the earlier enemy phases, the clerics are actually nice enough to move out of your way, for you. Which, yeah, is pretty nice of them. In fact, it looks as though the only enemies left here are clerics and Elrean. So we can just take our time and grab these chests. Another physics staff, always useful, especially considering there's going to be a bit of a difficulty spike coming up. Might as well hit this save point. Then again, it's not like we've got any chance of losing from here on. Again, this chapter is pretty easy, actually. It's a nice breather considering what comes next. What comes next is the opposite of easy. But anyway, although it is kind of fun, I will admit. And a big bullion, we will be needing that, because, yep, there's going to be a lot of secret shops coming up. Now, right, Wendell is in position to move into Elren's range, but as I said before, Elren has Mappa Syndrome and will attack him. But, we can do this. Silencio! And we get a good amount of experience out of that too. Okay, notice how Elren's attack range disappeared? Yep, Silent Staff means Elren can't actually do anything to us for a turn. Now his attack range is back, because after the turn is over, he's got it back, but, fortunately, I'm in range right now. So, by use of the Silent Staff there, I was able to recruit Elren without having to survive an attack for him. There you go, there's one of the uses of a full map silence effect. Also means those stupid clerics can't heal anything, but considering Elren's the other one on the map anyway. Basically, you get a dialogue here where Wendell is explaining exactly why he passed up giving Excalibur to Elren and gave it to Merrick instead. Now, if you remember, here we go. If you remember the backstory, I believe this was revealed in Shadow Dragon, although I'm not entirely sure. Basically, oh, by the way, the other Pontifex Wendell mentions here was in fact Linda's father, as you can tell from the support conversations. But being jealous of being passed over to inherit one tome, Garneth went a little crazy and grabbed the Dark Sphere. You'll find out more about what the Dark Sphere does just after this chapter finishes. But basically, yeah, the Dark Sphere essentially stole his soul, and it's implied that Garneth, he probably wasn't all that nice, but it's implied Garneth wasn't actually evil before he used the Dark Sphere and went crazy. It's also implied the Dark Sphere made his appearance look all ugly. But, anyway, let's talk about Elren. Now that Wendell has managed to talk some sense into him, we now have Merrick's angsty rival Elren on our side. Elren is, well, here's the thing, yeah. Compared to Merrick, he's not looking all that good. I mean, he's certainly not a bad character by any means. His growths are decent, and he actually has slightly better bases than Merrick, but only very slightly. They've got the same growth, but with Elren's 1 point higher base, he's probably going to end up with higher magic power in the end. Elren also has considerably higher defense than Merrick. He has a higher base and a better growth too, which means he's a mage who's a bit less squishy, and that can be helpful sometimes. He also has a higher magic rank, being starting at a C rather than a D. That's mostly so that Elrean can use Thor on a base. Although Merrick is one rank off using it himself, and then again, Thoron's pretty much nothing compared to Excalibur anyway. Other than that though, yeah, Elrean, it's pretty much not good news for Elrean after that. I mean, he's not bad by any means, but if you look back at Merrick's growth, they were generally superior to his in most respects, apart from defense, like I said. Merrick has much better skill and luck, much better luck, actually. And because of that, well, I mean, yeah, he also has an exclusive tone to himself that's probably better than Thoron is. So, Merrick kind of outclasses this guy, and considering that Merrick is required for the final chapter, that really doesn't make things easy for Elrean. He's got tough competition for a slot in your team, and with both Merrick and Linda being as amazing as they are, there's actually little reason to use Elrean. It's sad, really. He's not bad by any means. I mean, he's actually pretty good. I mean, if he was, like, the only mage in this game, I'd certainly recommend using him. But as it stands, he just suffers from a bad case of what TV tropes would call overshadowed by awesome. The other two mages are just too good, and he kind of suffers from that. So again, Elrean's not bad by any sense, and if you need a mage who can kind of take hits, yeah, then he's your best bet. But, unfortunately, his rival and Linda, well, yeah, they kind of had him eclipsed. One other thing I should probably mention about Elrean. Elrean forms what is known by some players of the game, actually mostly me, I kind of invented the term, but anyway, as the cut-off point. Basically, on Lunatic mode, every character who joins after Elrean is pretty much completely worthless. Since this isn't Lunatic mode, and I'm not going to take Lunatic mode into account, I'll still judge all the characters afterwards in their own merits. But the general consensus by most players is that generally all the decent characters in the game, the ones that are really worth using, came up to and including Elrean. Past Elrean, yeah, they generally either join too late, have bad bases, or just can't really catch up. That's mostly on Lunatic mode though. On the lower difficulties you can probably feel free to use them. But anyway, we'll get to that when we see some of the other characters. Till then, just remember, Elrean, it's kind of sad for him. He's not bad by any means, but he's just not as fantastic as Merrick and Linda. That being said though, considering Elrean is an angsty blonde-haired rival, and Mary Sue's just love giving them the Draco and leather pants treatments, I'm going to be using him for this playthrough. Yes, he's going to be my main mage. I've never used him before, so this is going to be interesting. So, yeah, Elrean is the latest addition to our party. And he does come with one of the star shards, I forgot to mention. Okay, another 2 turns and we'll be done with this chapter. And with all the clerics alive at that. That's, yep, and if you manage to keep all the clerics alive, for some reason though, it's weird though, it's a bit of a guide, dang it, because it's never actually explained to you that you're supposed to spare the clerics. But, yep, they have a present for us, the silver card. The silver card allows the bearer to buy items for half price in shops. This could not have come at a better time, considering we're going to be encountering an awful lot of secret shops at this point. However, there's something a bit funny about this. On Lunatic mode, the silver card is replaced with a vulnerary. Yes, you can practically hear the developers going tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la at that. Yes, they laugh at your misfortune, they are officially sadists. But anyway, at the moment, Goto is going to talk to us about or at least his projection, is going to talk to us about the 5 orbs. Or the spheres. The game's kind of inconsistent with the terminology. Anyway, basically, the spheres are light, dark, star, earth, and light. Basically, yeah, the dark sphere is, apparently, the dark sphere can control your enemy's mind in battle. And that's the reason why you can't hurt Harden. Your character literally will refuse to lift their weapon because the dark sphere possesses their mind. And, though, the problem is, though, the Dark Sphere makes you invincible, but at the cost of your sanity. Well, not exactly. Essentially what the Dark Sphere does is it takes the worst aspects of your personality and magnifies them until they're the one thing that defines you. You'll see exactly what aspect of Hardin's personality consumed him later, although it is pretty sad for him. So, but yes, envy is sort of involved, but exactly who is he envious of? Well, if you've played Shadow Dragon, you can probably guess. But until then, we know that the only way to counteract the Dark Sphere is with the power of the Light Sphere, which, if we're going to get it, we're going to need to go on a quest, an epic quest across Dragon Country. The next part of the game, I'm not going to lie, is going to be awesome. It's one of my favourite parts in the whole FD series, in fact. But before then, we've still got some stuff to do. Anyway, Jagan is giving us an assessment of how many allies have died, and no one's died, obviously. That's how I played anyway. So, yeah, then we have this. What the? Wait a minute, who are you? Now, Maris was a character from the, broadcast satellite view, VS Fire Emblem. It's a Fire Emblem game most people haven't heard of, for good reason. It was a kind of a weird downloadable thing for this addition to the Super Famicom that was Japan only. Anyway, Maris is a mercenary, and she's going to join you in house. Wait, 590 gold? Well, that's nothing! I can pay her that right now. Seriously, I'd be willing to pay her that right now. But, hey, she wants us to wait until the war's over. Which is actually a pretty good deal. Anyway, she and her father, Dice, are gonna join us right now. I'm probably gonna have to discuss them now, aren't I? I'll just get this out of the way. Maris is, in my opinion, easily one of the coolest looking characters in the game. And it's a shame she's not really more interesting stat-wise, because, yeah, her looks are really awesome. Now, in her original appearance in VS Fire Emblem, I should probably explain that, it was an obscure sort of downloadable add-on thing for the broadcast satellite view, and very few people know about it, and understandably so, it only had a limited release even in Japan. For some reason, the developers consider it the 5th game in the Fire Emblem series, if you are to ask interviews or anything to go by. But, which is kind of interesting, but they basically consisted of just a bunch of maps, and interestingly enough, the 4 Arcania Chronicles bonus maps you unlock after beating the prologue, they're actually a remake of the VS Fire Emblem maps. Of course, the original ones in the original version actually had voice acting, which is interesting. But of course, the voice acting isn't reproduced. Enough about that though. What I'm trying to say here is, in her original appearance in VS Fire Emblem, Maris was a female mercenary, and I actually think it's a shame that she wasn't in this game, because I think she would have been awesome as a female hero, and female heroes are really underrepresented in the series. The only ones, until Awakening, the only ones really were, Echidna in Fire Emblem 6, and Ira's substitute daughter in Fire Emblem 4, but no one really got her because we know she sucks. Other than that though, Fire Emblem Awakening finally let females be mercenaries and heroes freely. But at this point still, yeah, the developers decided to change her to a Muradin. Her personality would be much more fitting of a female mercenary, I think. And again, she would have been a lot more interesting statistically if she was a female mercenary slash hero. But as it stands, well, here's the problem. By the time we get her, we've already got Navarre and Rad, 2 pretty decent Muradins, so why exactly should we bother with her? Then again though, the next chapter we're going to be needing a lot of sword users, so she's got opportunity to level up there. But still, her growths are actually mostly inferior to Navarre's in pretty much every respect, except for the fact that she has a magic growth, but it's pretty tiny. Her average stats are alright, but still, they're not much compared to Navarre's. Her base defense, though, is oddly high for a Muradin and a female one at that. In fact, I don't even think Navarre's got that much defense yet. He's like 5 levels higher than her. So, that's kind of interesting, in that she's got that. But her defense growth is so tiny, she can't really make use of that. So she's got a good defense base, but at the same time, it's not going anywhere. Her resistance growth is in fact oddly high, I just realized, for a physical user, but it's still pretty pathetic. Yeah, really I think the best thing about Maris is the inventory she comes with. She joins with a Lady Sword, the second one in the game. So, and being able to use that immediately, Lady Sword is pretty nice, so generally the main thing I use her for is just to strip her of that pretty nice inventory. She's got a Levin Sword too, which is always useful. So, yeah, I can't really think of much else to say about Maris. It's sad, really. She looks awesome, she has an awesome personality, I'd really love to use her if I could, but I just don't see much reason to. You're at the point where you actually are starting to think, do I really need new characters now? At this point, you've probably already chosen a sizable army to start training up, and deployment slots are tight, and by this point, even Rad is probably better than her in the long run, so there isn't really that much reason to use her. Again, like most characters who join at this point, her main use is just to strip her of her really nice inventory. So how does her father, aka Manly Moustache Guy, fare? Well, I'll just say this. He has the same base skill as Cord, despite joining 10 levels higher than him. Yeah, that should pretty much tell you all you need to know. Dice suffers from a similar problem with his daughter, although worse. Again, he looks cool and he's got a pretty cool personality, but I can't really find much reason to use him. Then again, Maris is at least a fairly decent Numitan, and if you want to use her, she'll turn out pretty good. Dice, on the other hand, his bases, like I said, in fact are mostly inferior to the other Axe Fighters, despite him being at a much higher level, and in terms of growths, he really only excels in HP and strength. Even then, Board and Cord have pretty much the exact same growths, if not better, in those two areas, and they've got better growths in other areas. I mean, Dice doesn't have any really awful stats, but his growths are kinda meh, really. And that's kind of a problem. If you look at his averages there, 20 skill and only barely above 20 speed at level 20, that's not exactly what you want out of a good axe user. Really, Bast has this guy totally beaten in every way. I mean, Bast is pretty amazing, but even then, I'd recommend even using Cord over this guy. At least Cord's got a better speed growth. And yeah, he has skill issues, but still, I mean, Dice is actually pretty mediocre, really. I mean, his bases, apart from strength, aren't anything to write home about. His growths aren't all that great either. Not only that, but unlike Maris, he doesn't have a particularly good inventory. He comes with a Devil Axe. Yeah. I don't recommend using that if you're a fan of living. Funnily enough, though, he's supposedly a gambler, and he has a Devil Axe in his inventory, and his name is Dice. I'm guessing that's all a pun on the fact that he's literally gambling with his life when using that Devil Axe. Yeah, don't use a Devil Axe, by the way. And I probably will say, I'm so sorry, Dice, your moustache is awesome, but don't use Dice. You probably won't want to. There are better axe fighters, and at this point in the game, you're kind of past the point where you can really bother with a new one, especially considering that, yeah, you've already got at least 2 fairly competent axe fighters. If you want an axe fighter, you should be using Bast by now, not this guy. Next up in this pretty crowded ending of this chapter, we have the conversation that occurs if you unlock the side quest. This side quest is unlocked by taking 15 turns on normal, 18 on hard, 21 on maniac, 24 on lunatic, or 27 on lunatic reverse. Failing that, the alternate condition is you need to have 3 or more of the enemy clerics alive. If you're going for the silver card, you should have them all alive, so you should get this no matter what. Anyway, it seems that Horace is in danger and we have to rescue him from a familiar enemy. Lots of him.